Okay, so this is what it should have looked like. It should have drawn a connection between the bones, just based off their hierarchy. And so we'll take a look at the hierarchy real quick, since we've already learned about that. And we'll go to the hypergraph hierarchy, and here's my set of bones. Okay, so if I want to rename my bones, let's use my naming convention. I'll just say, I call this one hips or cog underscore J&T for joint. Joint 2, I'll rename to hip underscore left underscore J&T, and the rest aren't really going to matter, but we'll go knee underscore left underscore joint, and all I'm doing is control double clicking on the node so that it'll bring up the rename node dialog. And ankle underscore left underscore joint, and we'll do ball underscore left underscore joint. Okay, so now they're renamed. And here they are, my perspective view. And I'm going to say this multiple times in the class, although it won't make a whole lot of sense at this particular moment. But whenever you create joints for a leg, or any scenario where you're going to use a RP IK handle, so a rotate plane IK handle, which if you don't understand yet, that's okay, we'll get to it. But anytime you do that, you need to have a little tiny bit of a bend, at least a little tiny bit of a bend in the 3-joint series that it takes to make that. So I just slide that forward a tiny bit, and I'll press down on my keyboard to pick walk to that location, and I'll slide this joint back. And so it was ever so slight, but you know, slight is enough when you're dealing with a computer that has, you know, a lot of precision. And what that will do is it'll make it so your knee will rotate the right direction. So that's a kind of a side note, but it's often missed, and we'll cover it again. Okay, so we got our scenario set up. Let's get back on the topic of rotation orders. And if I select this hip joint and go to my attribute editor, it also has the rotation orders. Now, when you're thinking about what you need to do to avoid GimbalLock, what you have to do is conceptualize, you know, which movement for that particular joint is the most common. And that particular movement needs to be the child. Now, I often get this wrong, so I may change my mind. So again, you'll have to think about it. That's the short of it. So I'm going to switch my rotate tool back to gimbal mode, so I can think about this. So the most common movement in the hip, and this is where it happens the most of the time, is front to back. The hip needs to be able to move the leg forward. It needs to be able to move the leg backwards. So we need to choose a rotation order that starts with Y, because Y is my rotation in this scenario that is going to rotate the hip forward and backward. So I actually might change my mind right away, but we'll see. So we have two different rotation orders that have Y in front. We have YZX and YXZ. So we'll just choose one and see what happens. So if I choose Y now, yeah, I'm definitely wrong. Let's take note of that. You want the Y to be the grandparent. So we need to choose this ZXY or XZY. And you'll understand why I was wrong here in just a second. Okay, so let's choose the top one, the X or the ZXY. And if we rotate in Y, which is our most common rotation for the hip, then the other 2 rotations follow with it, correct? And that's good. That means that if we need to twist the leg, it will twist straight down the chain. Now let's redo the scenario and make it sure it has the wrong rotation order. And if I rotate in Y, let's do this one. If I rotate in Y, and then I need to twist the leg, I can't. There's no way for me to twist the leg straight down the leg. Like if I try to twist it now, it does this little, I don't even know what you call that. But it's not a not useful rotation.
This is the leg.
Not, yeah, we don't know what that is. Okay, so we need to choose a different one, right? So let's choose, let's see, ZXY. Let's see what we get out of that. Now, we know that Y needs to be the grandparent because that's the most common movement. So now, conceptually, we understand that part. So next, what's the next most common movement for a hip? Is it twist of the leg, or is it going to be move the leg from the left to the right? Left to right. That's what I would say. You know, and that may depend on your character. Maybe your character is a funny moving character, and you should be able to resolve this scenario for the character.
Maybe before.
Yeah, they still rotate out at the hip. It's awkward looking, but they can do it. Okay, so that means that Z on my blue handle needs to be my next in rotation, so that needs to be the parent. So we'll go to X, Z, Y. So that makes X the child, Z the parent, and Y the grandparent. And then if we're theorizing correctly, then this should work in nearly every scenario for the animator, if not all scenarios. So I can move forward and back, which is the most common, so let's put it there, and we'll kind of pose the knee to kind of give a little bit more of a feeling of its motion. And then we would say he's kind of walking with his legs apart. So we rotate the hip out. Or maybe he's starting to turn and run off this direction. He's going to start running off to his right. So his left leg has to go out to keep the center balance. But then also we still have the X that's down chain, so I can twist this at the hip without losing the pose of the knee. Now the ankle is going to be changed. There's not much we can do about that. So anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Now, to continue our discussion, if you have the hip is a ball and socket joint. You also have other types of joints. You have knee joints, right? And they're hinges. You have hinge joints, ball and socket joints. On a hinge joint, you only ever use one rotation. So, do you need to worry about rotation order on hinge joints? No. Are you ever going to reach GimbalLock on a hinge joint? You might, but is it going to matter? No, because you're only rotating in one axis.
What's an example of
the knee or the elbow. Okay, it can only has one axis of rotation.
Then you can't bend your knees side to side.
Well, you can break it if you want to, whatever, dislocate it or whatever they call that. So yeah, so that's rotation orders, and we'll stop there.